good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? Or as I've been calling it to myself lately, the Who Am I Project. Welcome to the Who Am I Project. It is a forum where we do know a lot of things about who we are, but we don't presume that all is known and that that's all the questions that need to be asked. Done and dusted. We understand who we are. We're not doing that. We're keeping the question open. Who am I? Who am I? And understand that every single time you answer that question, I am fill in the blank. There's an energy involved. Evolved. Ooh. There's an energy involved. There's a frequency involved. There's a thing that happens to you. It shifts your frequency. Anyway, I think it's an interesting question. We ask it without resistance. We think about these things just in a very, very open way. In this particular forum, there is no resistance. We're not pushing back against anything in the world that I promise you, I am a regular human being, and I know that there are things that we like and things that we don't like. I totally understand that. But each individual has to come to their own realization, to their own plugged in understanding of it. We can't do this from the outside as a group. We have to do this inside as individuals, and then we come together as a group, each individual having agreed to join the group. It's who am I? Who am I, and what are we going to talk about today? This is partly guided by my physical mind. My physical mind is involved in this. It's almost like I'm channeling my inner being. And sometimes I get a good run at it. I'm not channeling a different personality. I'm not channeling a great big personality from the other side of the universe. Or anybody that doesn't know. It's sort of like... So this is a good question. The good question I'm asking right at this moment is, who am I? Who am I, this little being who's sitting in front of the microphone, doing a recording every morning, asking the question, who am I? Well, who am I to be asking this question, who am I? Well, we all have the right to ask it, so that's where I get my credentials. I'm a human being. I'm allowed to come into this room and ask the question, who am I? Now, if you're a regular listener, you might be annoyed at me because I seem to have some answers, too. I have some answers, but I have more questions than answers, and that's always the right ratio. So, where do I want to start today? Because, I don't even understand exactly what I'm doing, by the way, audience listening to me. I post this every morning. I don't really have many people that are listening, and I'm not sure it's the same person. There's one that seems a little more faithful than the rest, and I'm thinking that might be one person. And then it's possible that I have other eyes that wink in and out and listen to what it is I'm doing. It might just be loved ones keeping track of me, making sure I'm not ready for the booby hatch yet. I seem to be acting reasonable, though, in my day-to-day life. I take care of all business that needs to be taken care of. We have needs, and there's a certain structure of needs in your life that you need to do what it takes to take care of that aspect of your life. Every day, you need air, water, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, and expression. And that's in the order of how fast it will take them to kill you if you don't have them. The expression one takes quite a long time, but what will happen if you don't express is that little by little by little, the life forces in you will slow down until they stop. And that equals death. Your little form will lose meaning, lose energy until it stops. So it will eventually kill you. But it won't kill you very quickly. It's just the kind of thing that as you get old, maybe you just get crotchety and stiffer and more whatever, and then you just atrophy and die. That's what will happen to you if you do not express. The communication one's a little bit faster. I mean, the relationship one, if you don't have something to relate yourself to, because you are a mirror. We are designed like a mirror. We are a fractal, integral, reflective mirror. And so, and the universe is too. And so what you are looking at, and it's really subtle and it's cool and it's amazing. And if you can get to the place within yourself, if you can develop your consciousness, your awareness to the point where you can see this happening, you disconnect yourself from the intensely personal. You're not taking everything personal. A mirror is not personal. A mirror is not personal. When you stand in front of the mirror, what it reflects back to you is not, it's not taking you personally, it's just reflecting you back to you. And that's actually what the universe is doing, and you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to take offense. You don't have to take it as an indictment on anything. It's just information back to you, because you do want to put the best face out, because that's fun. That's the best one. That's what feels best. So in a way, there's a morality to the universe at the core of it all. It's true. Goodness is better. Light is better. Connection is better. Kindness is better. Love is better. But in a way, when you address the universe, there is in an ultimate way, the whole thing that it's reflecting back to you is rather mirror-like. It's reflecting back whatever it is that you're putting out. So you get to see yourself. And just like if you have a big piece of spinach stuck in the middle of your teeth, when you gaze into the mirror and what you see back, you can adjust what you're doing because the universe is showing you yourself. And my best new analogy is as this mirror. When you gaze into it and you see that the face in the mirror is frowning and you don't like it. I don't like that frown, you say as you frown at it, and you walk over to the mirror and try to force it to smile. That's a perfect analogy. You have to smile, and then the universe reflects back a smile to you. Now, you may say, oh, that's just philosophical hooey. The fact is, facts on the ground say different. Reality is real. And I can't just smile at the pedophile. I can't just smile at the cannibals. I can't just smile at the murderers and the Nazis and the libtards or the MAGAs or whoever it is that's yanking my chain. Because they're seriously off their whack. And I also happen to know that our morphogenetic field is affecting each other. I affect you, you affect me. And so it is in my vested interest that I get you straightened out. That's another reason why we can't stay out of each other's business. Because, and there's physiological reasons for this, things like mirror neurons. That's something. We have mirror neurons inside of our brains that fire whenever someone else does something and we observe it. We watch it, we see it, and like when somebody gets hit in the nuts, we double over. Ah! Oh, that hurt. You know? It's mirror neurons we got going on. We probably have other things too. We have another set of specialized neurons that a lot of people don't know about. Both of these two, Greg Braden always points out because they're interesting and there's implications to them both. The other one is a set of neurons in your heart. There's about 40,000, from what I understand, of these brain-like cells in the muscle of your heart. It's called the little brain in your heart. You have a small brain, and it's part of the heart brain coherence that you need to line up. It's a frequency. It's a thing that you do when you line your two consciousnesses up. Or actually, you probably have three. You probably have more than that. We just don't know all of them. The third one I would be referencing is the brain in your gut. I'm sure that your gut has brain cells too. And you're a whole system in alignment with itself. And actually, we as human beings are a whole system. We as life itself are a whole system. We got to start looking at this whole picture in front of us in terms of holistic systems. You got to look at the whole thing. And in this little allness project that I engage in, one of the rules of the game is, for the most part, we are referencing all morning long things like, so the question is, who am I? The reference is source energy. Source energy is everything. We are looking at this in terms of its allness, the great allness, the almighty, even, you could call it. The almighty, the everything. Why? Because the universe is holographic, and so it is appropriate to look at it as an allness, a wholeness, because the wholeness is everywhere. The allness is everywhere. It's how come religions won't go away. How come every time you turn around, there's somebody else building a church on the corner to the, Church of the Almighty something or other? Because there is a force at play organizing us. And it's organizing us along the lines of frequencies. Depending on what frequency you're on, you're going to start gravitating and being attracted to things along your frequency. So say if you're a very angry, aggrieved person who is convinced that other people are to blame, look at their behavior. Look at how dirty they are. Look at how stupid they are. Look at how intrusive they are. Look at how out of control they are, or whatever. So you're focused outward, watching other people's bad behavior. And I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Because, of course, look at all the bad behavior. It's easy to find behavior to focus on and fixate on that, and then imagine, because you can see all the fallout, destruction from the bad behavior you're watching. You can see it. Don't tell me that's not a bad thing. It all depends on where your focus, what your attention is focused on, what frequency it's broadcasting and receiving on. By the way, you are a broadcaster and a receiver. And depending on which frequency you have decided to broadcast on, that's the one you're going to be receiving on. And if you happen to be a negative person who is convinced of the us and them paradigm, absolutely convinced that those people out there and what they are doing is what is causing the problems in your life, that's the way you're focused. You've got that frequency going on. You're upset. And so you're broadcasting on an upset frequency. Guess what's coming back at you? Chaos and incoherence. And you're lining up with other angry people. Aggrieved people convinced of the us and them paradigm. That's what you're starting to line up with. And there's big storms of that kind of thing that's gathering around us. There are big storms of that. The thing about those negative storms, they will play out. They will not perpetuate, but they will play out. Very interesting. I see things in our political future. I don't know how to avoid it. Now, for the last bunch of years, I have been trying very hard to avoid thinking about politics. For just a minute, I jumped into it. It was 2016. I was starting to get concerned up until then. But it was hard to believe that that was really going to happen. And then it did. And, you know, the fools in my party over the last number of years and all the really stupid things that they have been doing. And they've been doing it and claiming that they have to do what they do because of this great threat, this existential threat to democracy itself. And they're correct. They were correct. They were absolutely correct that this is an existential threat to democracy itself. However, all of the things that they did, fear-based, were out of whack, out of alignment, and so did not produce the effect that they purported to desire at the beginning. We have not been protected from this existential threat to democracy. And now, in spite of the fact that he is the dumbest, stupidest, worst candidate ever, you guess which one I'm talking about. Good luck with that. He's going to win. He likely is going to win, and if he doesn't win, he's going to say he won anyway, and the country is going to erupt in civil war because a whole lot of people are going to believe him, you know, because they're angry and they believe the worst. They believe the worst about each other, about their neighbors, and so this narrative that it's all people trying to steal it from you, you know, it's all dishonest people willing to do anything for their political whatever. Just because you believe that of the other side. And the whole thing is deteriorating. And frankly, I'm not going to worry about it too much because you can't push against things that you can't control. I cannot control this. There is no stopping the train that's bearing down. And it's a good thing that it isn't really necessary to do that in order for us to get to where we really want to go. So let's just let it go. Our physical minds are not going to be up to this task. There are momentums and patterns playing out all around us. Our physical minds are not in charge of nor responsible for orchestrating all things. It's going. It's rolling. The ball is rolling. The vortices are spinning. And so what is my job? If it is not my physical mind's job to orchestrate everything and to control everything and to control conditions and if that's not what my job is, then what is my job? Well, I'll tell you what your job is. I believe that as human beings, we could do a better job understanding who we are. And if we had a better basic understanding of who we are, we could operate our equipment more efficiently. And in doing that, we could steer our starships into a better neighborhood. You know? We could quit summoning the demons forth. We could quit stirring the dark storms of chaos into being. We could quit creating Shiva energy. That's another way I put it. We are, the actual enemy is not another human being, and I don't care who they are. I don't care what role they are playing, even if they are going to be the great orange autocrat, coming up, and we're going to have to deal with it. We're going to have to deal with it by understanding how it happened, understanding who we are, and understanding how to operate our own equipment better so that we all land in a better harbor next time. Well, next time. It's always next time. The answer is understanding how to operate our own equipment. So who am I? First of all, you got to know your two minds. You have two minds, and one of them is so much bigger than the other one. One of them is so much more connected than the other one. One of them is so much more it is alignment. So it's not a question of, it is what you align to. It is your source mind, the one that is pure vibration and purely attached to, is that the right word? Your vibrational self, not your physical body. But it is connected to all physical bodies because your source mind, the vibration of source and the physicality of all things are not separate things. And yet they are two aspects of things, and so you can kind of separate them. The vibration and the physicality, it looks like two different things, but they aren't two different things. So you are two selves. You are two minds. And your source self has got it going on. Just know that. This is what all the religious people, what they talk about when they're talking about have faith. Have faith in God. Rest easy. Now, if you do not know who you are and you are entranced in physicality and not understanding how your emotional guidance system is telling you which direction you're going, your general to specific ratio is telling you how fast you're going. If you are very, very specific, then you're going fast. If you're negative, you're going 180 degrees in the opposite direction of which direction you want to go. If you're positive, you are going in the direction of your real self, and it's also the direction you want to go, and it's the direction that your source mind is guiding you, so you're doing very well. If you're positive, you're doing very well. Now, if you're negative, you're still doing well, but you're going in the opposite direction of what you want to go. So get a grip on yourself. Employ some sort of process to get yourself turned back around. And then, I have my set of slides, and if you're a regular listener, you know every one of them. You've seen every one of them. I don't have any new ones. Occasionally, I add new startup scenes. This one right here that you're looking at, this mushroom village-looking thing with a full moon behind it. That's a new one. I found it today. I like the mushroom theme. I like the surreal theme. I like the moon in the scape. For some reason, that one is pleasing me too. I've got a whole series of, I have different series of background stuff. So these, I come up with new ones of these all the time. But my regular slides that show the illustrations of the topics that I'm talking about, you'll know all of them if you've listened to me. This one right here was the one I was moving to, 4 general states of being, because this is a discussion of your brake and your accelerator system. Your brake is your pull out of the specific and pull back to the general until you can line yourself. If you've gone negative, quit pushing on it. Quit if you're negative, you're swimming upstream. You're pushing against your resistance, and the more specific you are in it, the faster you're going there in a real way. So when I'm talking about going places, I'm referring to in physicality. You're heading down the road of your life. You're making changes and things happen in a direction of like or not like. That's what I mean by when I say going. You're going in the direction that you don't want. And how fast are you going? How quickly are you making those changes around you that you're not going to appreciate? Is it very, very incremental, or are you smashing? Have you taken a Louisville Slugger to the headlights of your ex-boyfriend because he cheated on you? I'm sorry, but you're going to have an awful lot to clean up on the other side of that, and I don't care how justified you think you are in your negative emotion. Maybe next time he'll think before he cheats. Yeah, well, tell that to the judge, because you don't have the right to do that to people. And you are going to be paying for that. Well, anyway, so your 4 general states of being. You have your specific and your positive. Your specific and your general, your positive and your negative. General means you've pulled it back to the I'm going slow, this is good. If you find yourself in a negative, pull back to the general. Don't beat yourself up. You just got yourself, flipped backwards. It happens all the time. It's part of your equipment. It's actually a blessed part of your equipment. Just understand what your equipment is telling you. And don't believe your negative mind. Do not believe it. It's not you. On the other hand, in the moment, it's giving you information. It's just sort of turned inside out information. It's sort of like a negative on a photograph. All the information is there. It just looks funny, It looks wrong. It's not really what you're looking for. It's not who you really are. So what else do I want to say? Where do I want to go with this? I've explained the whole thing. I've explained the whole picture. You are this binary self, and I guess at some point I'm going to want to invite people into the room with me to talk about this. But I want to make sure that anybody that I invite in, if you come into the space, I guess the first way to do this would be to have a guest in the room. I invite a guest in who is up to speed with the material. They understand that this isn't a debate. This might be a place where you ask questions, and if I get into a good enough frame of mind, it's very possible I can answer the questions from a number of different perspectives. Answer the questions, pose more, actually. It's possible. I don't know. At some point, I could maybe throw the whole thing into a fully open where I flip a switch and I'm streaming. And then let's see, what questions people come in with. Do I get trolls, or do I attract, really good questions, or do I have people who are not up to speed saying, I hear you're, a communist over here. Well, I'm not a communist, as a matter of fact, and I'm not even a socialist anymore. I'm not really a socialist imposed from the outside. I believe that when we get to where we're really going, there will be absolutely a huge socialist aspect of ourselves, but it can't be imposed physically on the outside. It has to be organic and flow from the inside. All of us impulsing just until we look around and go, oh, look how we are social. But it has to come from a place where the individuals are individually plugged into source energy and source organizational properties. because that's the real power. Source is organizing us. And the way that it's doing it is because it's all connected spin. It's all like this infinitude of individuated spins stemming from a source. It's like, imagine all these. Is this what they're talking about with string theory? I don't have any idea. Imagine a whole bunch of threads, all of them, each and every one of them spinning. Maybe there's strings that are spinning. But they're all connected from a single place. So I'm holding them at one end, all of the ends of the string at one single point. But then they come off of that and every one of them is spinning independently. Oh, that's an interesting picture. I don't know how you draw that. And the reason that's important, and they don't get tangled up because every Planck instant, everything's winking in and out of very existence. It winks all the way out and then all the way back in. And why do we not know that? Because most of the time, it mostly winks all the way back in, mostly the same as what it winked out. Now, the potential is completely different. But the speed of how much you can shift that is going to depend on how fleetly you can imagine it, how clearly you can see how it really could do it, how it could make sense, because it's not going to do it if it doesn't make sense. You're going to keep winking in and out pretty much the same until you can see how the sensibility could be otherwise. The universe isn't going to give you vertigo, in spite of the fact that it could wink all the way out billions of times a second, coming back into play completely different. The potential is as high as that. But of course, what do you do with that? So it can change as fast as you're capable of, getting up to speed with it. But the experience that you want is one of continuum. And so it mostly comes back the same. But it doesn't have to. And you can start the process of changing whatever you want it to be. Just start the momentum of it becoming whatever you want it to be. And it will flow into whatever you want it to be. Within reason. I mean, the boundary reasons that it has to obey is the rules of the emergence of matter and the nature of all of the forces. Which brings me to this slide, which is a link to the paper. This is the paper that Nassim and a couple of other people whose names I can't quite pronounce well, but you can see them written here. They published this back in September, and this is the full abstract, and then they also did a 37-minute full description of this paper on YouTube. I have posted a link to this in on this video. It's in the description of this video. I do it every day. I've got like 4 or 5 things in there. The paper. Do I have the paper? I think I have the paper and the YouTube description of the paper. I have that YouTube movie, the YouTube version of the movie The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. It's the documentary of the history of over Unity devices and really, really, really good ideas for energy saving and like running a car on water, stuff like that, and solar panels way, way more efficient than they should be, stuff like that. Those things have been suppressed for over 100 years to keep the paradigm of fossil fuels in place and to keep the relatively small number of human beings in control of the physical situation on the ground because of our dependence on fossil fuels and because of the momentum of the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure producing the fossil fuels, and then the infrastructure of the specific technologies that plug into those fossil fuels. It's been gently guided for over 100 years into this paradigm that we've got right now, that we didn't need to have done this. We could have incrementally gotten off fossil fuels the whole time. But instead we didn't know, and the reason that my thesis is that all of this has happened because we don't know who we are. We haven't plugged into source energy because an understanding of source energy is implied to plug into source energy. And then when you understand source energy, by implication, you start to understand who you are. All of these things, they reinforce one another. They aid and assist and aid and abet one another. And so I think that things are going to change because we are going to come to a better understanding of who we are. Who we are as the quantum field. Who we are as source energy itself. Who we are as continuous beings. Who we are as our binary system of minds. Both of these minds being vibrational, they are both vibrational. You have your physical body mind and your source energy mind. That's what this picture represents to me. That's why I put it up all the time. And they are both vibrational minds. And when either one of them takes a thought, it has a frequency. And I'll tell you right now, you don't have any control over what your source mind is thinking. Your source mind is busy being deeply, deeply connected to all the rest of real physicality all around you. All the rest of the biofield, all of the atoms, all of the everything. Your source mind knows where everything is because it's all connected through this spinning. I think it's like a single spin. And out of that singularity, all the rest of the individuated spins are coming forth. But because they are connected at the primary, at the, not primary, but primordial, that foundational spin, that singularity of spin. Since they're connected there, Source knows where everything is. How it is spinning, what its velocity is, what its direction is, what its temperature is. It knows where the blood is flowing, what your cells are doing, how the wind is blowing, how the leaves. It knows the bunny. It's just exactly what everybody's been saying about God forever. He knows everything. He sees everything. He loves everything. He does, and he is, but it's not a he, and it's not out there, it's you. And it can be understood. I believe it can be understood, and we can understand ourselves, and we can understand the universe around us. And when we do that, we're going to line up with it, and we're going to start playing and dancing with it in a way that we have not even begun to play or dance. I am very, very excited about our future. I don't know when this particular future of clarity that I know is in our future. It has to be, because it's the truth of things. When we understand how we are actually designed and aligned, we will look around ourselves and go, duh, we'll do a little slap the forehead, could have had a V8 moment, and then we'll get on with it. Get on with living and being in this glorious freaking universe, dancing and playing like nobody's business. We need to know who we are. We need to know how source energy works so that we can plug our technologies into it so that we're not faced with this horrible Sophie's choice. Actually, it's not quite Sophie's choice. It's not as bad as that, but it's terrible. It is terrible to think about whether you have to choose either we're going to just keep burning this fossil fuel because practically speaking we have to, because look at what we've got on the ground. How are you going to stop burning the fossil fuels? Choose between not burning fossil fuels or the other choice. I don't know how to express this one. Us not plugging in technology. We just won't do anything with that technology. We'll just turn it all off and go back to the land. We'll just go back to being agrarian farmers, or whatever. We're not going back. I'll tell you that right now. We're not going back. We're going on. We will have our technology. We will have our technology. And so the logical answer is we've got to find a better way, a better source of energy to plug into. Well, I think that what we're going to be plugging into is source energy. Source energy. And so we got to understand it. And so hence my little program dedicated to understanding who am I? In reference to source energy, who am I? Who are we collectively? Now, I get to ask who am I because I am an I. And I have the right to ask this question up and down all day long. And then it sort of expands outward because I am a human being. And I get to ask the next question, who are human beings? Where did we come from? I am intrigued. I am absolutely so intrigued within my soul about the possibility that we are genetically modified. And I grew up in a world where science was not acknowledging that we have had contact with extraterrestrials. There is so much evidence of it everywhere, from technology built into architecture all over the planet, that we can't duplicate it. And yet it was made thousands of years ago. And so it's our primitive ancestors that came up with this. But now we can't duplicate it. The massive stones cut with and laid with tremendous precision, without mortar, just precision of laser cutting. And they weigh tons, hundreds of tons, 1,000 tons sometimes. Anyway, and the quarries where the stones came from, a long distance away from, how were they moved? It implies technology that we do not have. That's that's a big reason, perhaps, why, from the conspiracy theory point of view, and there is the conspiracy theory point of view is not it's not an completely invalid point of view. I mean, there has been a conspiracy. There is a conspiracy. The problem is that ultimately, when you're looking at the way the universe is designed, there is no us and them, so you can't stay there. It's a morphogenetic field issue. And you are your unknown, your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. And you can't, there isn't any us and them that you can really land on legitimately and solve the problem. The problem lies in the polarity in the field itself. That us and theming thing that you just did is a polarity move. And it only amplifies the polarity in the field. And that's actually what the enemy is. It's what's going to start causing both sides of the polarity to turn against each other and start ripping each other to shreds. I call it all kinds of other things too. Shiva energy, demons that we have summoned. It's all energy, and we are summoning it by not understanding the energy at play, by taking it all way too personally, where on the one hand it isn't personal at all, and yet when you come all the way down to it, it's so intensely personal, because each and every one of us is the entire universe. How personal is that? It's really, really personal. And yet it's not personal. Don't take any of it personally. It's just energy moving. And if you would take the personal out of it, then your eyes can see how the energy is moving. Then you can reintroduce the personal factor, because of course it's personal. It's you. It's you. It's you. It's you. Personal you. Such a paradox, such a spread of ideas. So where are we left? I said, like I say often, that I am intrigued by the notion that I believe that we are genetically modified. I believe that there is evidence in our genetics that you can point to it and say, well, this is a start. I think there's more in our genetics than this too. But I'm not a geneticist. I just came across this information, and I located the actual, the evidence. At first I'd gone to Greg Braden seminars, and he has this slide. I have a bunch of his slides, but this slide here is showing, it's talking about the origin of human chromosome number 2. I don't know if this is the one that says that it's 76% of... No, it doesn't. It does say that 8% of the DNA in every cell comes from human chromosome number 2. It's the second largest human chromosome, which makes me ask, what's the first? I understand there's something going on with 7. I'm not sure. But I think it's enough. I think this information right here is enough to start implying the genetic modification. Now, I went and looked up the article, the actual article that Greg was referring to in that slide. It is pages 9,051 to 9,055, but frankly, I couldn't find a table of contents or a way to look at it by way of page numbers. So I located this article. It is at pnas.org. That's Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. pnas.org, open source, peer-reviewed scientific journal. And this article is 40 articles into this volume. It was published October 15th, 1991. And it is telling us that human chromosome number 2 is a fused chromosome, fused telomere to telomere. And apparently, if you read the full abstract, marks the point at which 2 ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. Very interesting. Now, this is not saying it was done by the hands of something, or it was artificially imposed. It isn't saying that. For all this article knows, these 2 chromosomes fused naturally from some... I can't imagine how. There is no incremental Darwinian evolutionary process that I can imagine that would have caused this. But maybe my imagination just isn't good. Maybe somebody else can imagine how this could have happened accidentally. But all they're saying is that it happened. I think it happened on purpose, and I think that we're genetically modified. Especially when you consider that what it created was the neocortex and our complex human emotions, which coincidentally speak to the field. our emotions speak to the field. Our emotions are a relativity between our two minds. And when you know that, and then you intentionally go about lining up your physical mind, the things that you think about, that you choose to think about in your little physical mind, and you choose to line them up with the kinds of things that your source mind is interested in. In other words, reality. How things really unfold. Not weird, phantasmagorical, superstitious nonsense that human beings oftentimes spend their imaginations thinking about. Now, I am all for imagination. Imagination is a fantastic, fantastic thing. All for it. What it turns out that your imagination actually is downloads of frequency. Whoop, 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 whoop. I do not want to do that. What did I just do? Nope, nope, nope. Sorry, I got distracted. It's too bad because I was on a good thought. Yes, your imagination as being vibrational downloads from your higher self. So how twisted and tortured and dark and scary and focused on fears and dangers your imagination is, probably indicates how out of alignment or twisted up you are. So what do I want to say about this next? There's a lot to understand here. I haven't shown this yet today. This is your emotional guidance scale. This tells you how you are doing relative read between your two minds. Because remember, your source mind cannot be negative. It's just looking at what is. How can that be negative? It's so busy keeping track of the motion of all of the atoms and molecules and all the different vortices everywhere. It doesn't have time to regret or pine or worry. It's always looking at what is real and expanding the evolutionary ball forward, expanding the view, looking forward at possibilities. It's also focusing upon what you want, because it's focusing on what everybody wants. It knows what is, it's focusing on what we all want. And I believe that there is a convergence point where everything that we want meets what everybody else wants. Now, relatively recently, the idea as being profound. Now, I know Maslow thought it was profound, and anybody going to through psychology classes is going to have learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all that. He's not the only one who's talked about this. But actually, there is a specific set of needs, period, that you, in reality, it's the only things that you need in order for your physical body to continue to live. The other things you don't need. The Ferrari you don't need. The new computer you don't need. The new fashion you don't need. There's a lot of things that we want, that we make, that we have fun with, that we want, but we don't need them. It's important to look at what we need. The rest of the stuff we don't need. Air, clean air. So the fact that our activities are dirtying up the air is a big problem. We need to stop it. Clean water, same thing. Food. our ability to generate enough food as a human supply chain is, we're not as good as we could be, because we are not effectively co-creating with the master of all abundance upon this planet, which is source energy. Sleep, that's a different matter. That has to do with connecting to our collective self, because there's just one of us here. And the dream world is a common thing. It's a place where we go to commune with our whole self. So the dreaming is really important. And then food, and then shelter. Shelter, not meaning that everybody doesn't need a house, but we need to have a conducive environment, an environment that shelters us. So if we're in a warmer place, you don't even really need a house. If you're in a colder place, if you don't have a house, you need really good skin or a really good coat. You need a sheltering environment of some sort. I don't know. I keep trying to find words like kind. That's not the word I mean. Sheltering, I suppose, is just going to have to do, because I want to move on. You need reflective relationship, because since you are a reflective being, the whole thing is fractal, and it's reflective, and it's holographic, which means all the information is everywhere. You're seeing it reflected in integral wholenesses, partial, and then the whole thing is creating this big pattern. Wow, I was driving to something. I'm not sure exactly where I was going, so hold on, pause 1 second. We're going to go back to the two minds, because your source mind, that's the one that is connected to all the spins. That's the one that's connected to everything. That's your vibrational aspect connected to the whole rest of the universe through this source energy cosmic jiggle of the quantum Plancks of space-time / space memory, depending on how you want to look at what we're looking at. And when you when you screw your head down straight with actual reality, and then think in terms of the 7 needs, and then you start wanting what you need. I want what I need. And then on top of that, I want a lot of other things. Actually, you can get really creative about those wants. I want all of those things. I want clean air, clean water, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, and expression. But now, think about all the ways that those 7 things can be embellished, that you can go in and play with bringing about those things in beautiful, creative ways with the rest of the field around you. There's plenty of meat there to play with, just within those 7 needs. And if you can learn to want what you need, then you will find that the universe is always cooperating with you in big, powerful, connected ways. So, let's see. Back to the emotional guidance scale. This is the relative read between your two minds, between source mind and physical mind. And every thought that you take and start thinking has momentum. The law of attraction means that the law of attraction states this. It says this: that which is like unto itself is drawn. That's what the law of attraction says. But what it really means is when you start thinking a thought, thoughts just like it are drawn to this point where you are thinking. And so, and they start to build momentum. And it doesn't take very long before whatever thought you've taken has grown into bigger than when you started because of momentum. And Abraham tells us that 15 to 17, 15, 16 seconds, something like that, once you've taken a thought, another one just like it will join it. And so if the thought you took was negative, another one just like it is going to join it. And you're going to, and then another, and the next thing you know, you're going to be smack dab in the middle of thinking a whole bunch more thoughts about whatever it was you started to think about because of momentum. If you started negative and continued negative, then your momentum has grown into a negative place. And that thought when you first started that said, should I trust my fellow human being? Ended up, by the end of the day with this big, scary bunch of information that you have collected to yourself, all of this information about all of the evil and wickedness and scariness about all of your neighbors or whatever. And while it's not that it's not true, you have just done all the activity that you need to do to help make yourself more vulnerable to all of that scary stuff that you are so worried about, that you have collected unto yourself, presumably because you wanted to be safe from it. But you didn't make yourself safe from it. You made yourself way vulnerable to it because you couldn't stop thinking about it. And you couldn't stop thinking about it because it was true. It's true. It's true. I got to think about it because it's true. But in actual fact, the very act of the way that you thought about that, the way that you focused on that, actually brought your experience way closer to an experience of all that scary stuff than had you not thought about it. Now, people may object about this because they're like, you can't just be an ostrich, and ostriches don't actually put their head in the sand, by the way. We lived in Africa for a couple of years. Never saw that. They don't actually do that. But it's a helpful analogy. You can't just put blinders on and say, I'm just not going to notice that the Nazis are starting to take over the government. Well, you actually can. You don't have to look at that. You do have to look at reality, but find a way to look at it that pleases you. Find a way to move in a positive way. So you're up here in the general. It's where you live all the time, by the way, is in the general, in the spiritual. And you want to find a way to move into the materiality, to move your mind into a specific read on the material plane. But you don't want to move in on a negative. This brings me back. I am visualizing this picture of mine as I say these words. Stay in the general unless you can move in to reality in a positive way. If you cannot move into specific reality, looking at specific real stuff, the materiality of this world, if you can't do it in a positive way, stay in the general. Because at least you're not going fast in the direction of where you don't want to go. Now, to be fair, negativity does have a little bit of a bad rap. Because a little bit of negativity can go a long way to clarifying reality. And a lot of times you need a little bit of a negative hit in order to clarify who you are and what you want and what's real around you. Let's see, where do we want to go next? I have one last, this one, I never show this one. This is somebody else's thing. They're selling this, I think, as a download. I just found it by going the emotional guidance scale. And I like it because I like this one too. I bought this one. I bought like a couple of copies of this one, and I still need to frame it and put it on my wall. I liked it because it shows the motion of momentum as you pick up a negative or positive thought. One thing that's interesting to know, to remember at all times when you're choosing to go negative, understand that you have an aspect of yourself that cannot go negative. It is impossible for your source mind to join you in your negative thought. Cannot do it. It's impossible to do it because it's focused on reality, and reality itself is actually not negative. It's real matter, it's evolving, it's expanding, it's moving forward. That's what real matter is doing, and your source mind is focused on that, and it cannot go negative. So you, in your little specific self, if you choose a small, mean little thought that has no good relationship to reality, you're going to feel it. And what it's going to feel like to you is negative emotion. And when you know that, you start knowing how to put the grain of salt on your negative emotion and turn it to a positive and go, oh, I see the good information in this, but I can't believe it at face value. It's not actually giving me an existential evaluation of the meaning or value of the reality. It's giving me good information, but I have to turn it positive before I can really read it truly. Because who I really am, is positive. And I know that not because I know myself and I'm a good person, so I know I'm positive. I don't know what you are. I know that we are all positive. And all of us who look negative are just doing so because they're not being who they really are. They're being some smaller version of themselves. And it's also causing them quite a bit of difficulty. And so you would be well to pity the person who is out of alignment instead of being angry at them. Besides that, when you become angry at the person who's out of alignment, you're out of alignment yourself. So what do I do with all of this? What do I do with all of this information? I'm sitting here, a human being, 21st century, trying to move forward. What do I do with this? Well, what I'm doing with it is I just try to put it together more and more and more and more clearly. This connection between who am I as source energy, who am I as a binary being, who am I as the quantum field, and how does the answers to that in reality bring me and my people to a place where we can coexist and co-create with one another in perfect peace and harmony instead of the more violent, more uncomfortable things that we do with one another. War, sixth mass extinction, poverty, scarcity, desertification, as in the growing deserts. All of the things happening on planet Earth that I do not like. The disruption to Gaia's physical breathing systems and circulation systems and all kinds of stuff as we bang around on planet Earth in a very out of alignment way. We are like a cancer on the planet when we do not know who we are. But I believe that knowing who we are is going to cure that cancer. And so that's why what I have dedicated this program to. The question, who am I? Who am I as source energy? Who am I as a species? Who am I as a biotechnology? And how do I function? How do I get what I want? What is what I want? When I align what I want with what I need, boom, the universe is working with me. Because the universe, that's what the universe has its eye on, what everybody needs. And the convergence point. Because remember, Source is sitting there at the singularity of all singularities, the place where all of the infinitude of individuations is stemming from. It's an interesting concept. I need somebody to help me develop that visually because I can see it in my mind. I just don't know how to draw or anything myself. So I need somebody to help me draw that one out. I think we could illustrate it for people. Now, I did threaten to... I have a few more minutes before I really need to close this out. Let me tell you right now what's going to be in the description. In the description area of this YouTube video, I have links. I always have links. I just copy them from before and I move them forward because I want all audiences forward to have access to all of these links. And through time, more links may appear, or I may figure out different ways to give you these links, but right now this is where they are. First, you have The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That documentary on over Unity devices and energy-saving strategies and all that stuff. And their brutal suppression over the last 100 years, by the way. The second thing will be the paper, the mathematical paper, and the YouTube video describing the paper. Then there's going to be Paul Levy's Butterfly Dreaming. And I think there's one more thing. What is it? Oh, yes. Nassim Haramein's the first episode of Quantum Revolution. He's got a 12-part series over on Gaia where he is describing the new unified physics and how quantum physics unifies to cosmological physics. It's interesting. Mathematically, I believe this is how you explain it. It isn't as disconnected as you think it is. The roiling sea at the quantum level, that dense pack of Plancks within the atom, do I want to describe this? If you take a Planck at its density, 10 to the 93, I believe, is what the Planck density is. Extremely dense, extremely energetic. You take that Planck and at its extreme density and you grow it to the size of a universe, of our universe. It has all the right density. It has all the right temperature. It has all the right everything that our universe is. But it isn't the number that is the known physical universe. So conventional physics has this number. So such and such a number equals all of the matter in all of the universe. And yet they have to add like about 96% more density in order to equal the energetic properties of the entire universe. It doesn't hold together unless you add, and we call it dark matter and dark energy. It's a fudge factor. It's a fudge factor in the mathematics. When you take a Planck at the Planck density and grow it to the size of the universe, you actually get all the right numbers for the universe. But it's not the numbers that then need a fudge factor added. It's the right numbers. really, really the right numbers is what you get. And then you realize what you're actually looking at as you gaze out onto the physicality of the universe. And then you start realizing what you actually are. Oh, I'm made of plunks. I can change into anything I want. But I'm also not in this alone. I am with all the other plunks, and I am moving in a plonky kind of way with the rest of the field. How interesting. Who am I? Who am I? And let's see. So his 12-part series will show you all of that, how it's all spin. All of the motion of all of the universe is all spin. And it's being thrown into spin by the gradient density existent across the field. And the gradient density, what I mean is the difference in densities, and the difference in density between the Planck and the cosmological is huge. It's enough to throw everything into spin. Anyway, it's an interesting series. I found the first episode on Gaia, and so I posted in the description so you can have that too. My program is really, I'm not original. The only thing original about me is the way I put it together. But the information I'm pulling from, I'm not making it up. Here, this is an interesting one. I pull this one into the program all the time, the 5 kleshas. This comes from Buddhist philosophy. This is what the Buddhists believe are the root causes of the abstract, boiled down root causes of all suffering come from us not knowing what's real and assigning things a literal meaning that they don't have. The universe is not nearly as solid as you think it is either. When you start believing that it's solid and you grasp and cling to it in a solid way, not recognizing that the vibration is what's primary, so your emotions actually are reading the universe more clearly than any of your other senses, because your emotions are going out farther than just, your touch and your taste and your sight, what you can see, what you can hear in earshot and all that. Your emotions are feeling a larger universe. And what they're really telling you is how well your physical mind and your source mind are resonating with one another. If your emotions are positive, then they're resonating quite well. Continue. Just keep doing what you're doing and take impulses the way you are taking them. If you are in a state of negative emotion, it means that you are not resonating. The small thought that your conscious mind, your small physical mind has taken, is not resonating with what your larger mind knows to be true about the situation. Which one of them are you going to believe now? Are you going to believe your inner being that knows everything? Or are you going to believe your negative mind that just really wants to believe this negative thing that it's believing? Because there's so much that will confirm it. Because the whole thing is going to reflect back again in a way that looks like it's confirming what's true. Because the universe is this reflection too. Whatever you're putting out, you're getting back. Whatever back again. It's like looking at a mirror, a face in the mirror that's frowning. That's the thing you're looking at that you don't like. That's the frown. And you think that you need to, from the outside, make that mirror change. Change it to a frown. It's not going to work. It's all coming from you. And it's all probably a lot bigger than you're imagining it, especially if you're imagining it small in any way, because it's really, really big. I always pull this in because it's sort of a visual representation of the vibrational universe that we have. We live in a vibrational universe. This is cymatics, the study of the relationship between vibration and form. And if you notice this, so upper right, lower left, those are created Cymatic patterns, they were created by, it's a metal plate. You put a granular medium on it, you put a vibration through the plate, and that granular medium sort of dances into a pattern. It forms a pattern. Change the vibration, that pattern changes. Now look at upper left and lower right. Those are also cymatic patterns, illustrating to you and your imagination how the universe is actually vibrational, and these vibrations are causing patterns and forms around us. The snowflake is a cymatic pattern. As that little tiny flake is forming in the atmosphere, it's touching frequencies, every one a different frequency, every snowflake a different pattern as it comes out. It's very cool. Very cool. What else do I want to say? That's probably it for the day. If you are a regular listener and you've joined me today, I appreciate you. I love you. I hope to see you back again tomorrow or the next day and the next day and the next day. I will bring other topics in. You might get bored with me because you've really got it. You're like, oh, I really know what she's saying now. It's a big old big thing she's saying. And it has lots of implications to humanity and our lives. The ability to get off of fossil fuels and still have a high density of energy resources that we can plug our technologies into. We have already. Humanity has created all the technology that we need to solve every one of our problems. We just need a better energy source. We can resequester the carbon. We can desalinate the ocean water. We can, let's see, what other things can we do? We can help make it rain. We can, There are other things. I just, they aren't coming to me right now. But all we need is a different energy source. And we will be able to create a planet of such amazing abundance that it is beyond our wildest happy dreams. We can have poverty, worldwide poverty and scarcity, gone in the next 2 decades. We can. We can, we could, we shall, we will. I don't know whether we're going to do it as fast as that, because we're going to be resistant. We're going to drag our feet. We're going to be... It's going to take us a while. When you realize how free to think and act every single being is, you realize that just because the information is known doesn't mean it's going to be... I could say this program to every single person on the planet today, and most of them still wouldn't get it because they're not ready. They're not ready to see what I'm trying to show. We are all one. There is only one of us here, and I know I'm not the first person to have ever said that. And it's perfectly legitimate for you to see, no, I am this divine individuation. I am not the wholeness. Do not let me be swallowed up. Do not let me disappear in the allness. I am an individual. I am. And I wouldn't disagree with you. Actually, those two concepts, the oneness, the allness, and the individuation, they're almost competing ideas. You know, and they are both divinely and profoundly true. And maybe that's my thesis. You know, we are all one, but we are all divine individuations of the one. And as such, we've got a great deal of power if we get into the center of our equipment and man it correctly. Follow your positive mind. Know that your real self is a positive mind. Your smaller self can go negative, and that actually tells you interesting information. When you pick a thought, when you select a thought to think and it goes negative, that tells you something very interesting. It says, oh, my broader perspective doesn't agree with this. So I can either persist in this thought that I know now that my broader perspective disagrees with. I can pursue it. But my broader mind, who knows where everything is, disagrees. Who are you going to believe? Your positive mind or your own lion eyes? Interesting questions. It's interesting questions. And with that, I think I'm going to end for the day because I have covered all of my information and I'm not getting any immediate inspiration to go down any new... I do have other pet ideas. I have other things to say, but without inspiration to go there, I guess I'm just going to end for the day. You know, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be talking about the same thing, different way. How many different ways can I cover this material until we know, who am I? Who am I as source energy? What is source energy, and how can I plug into it in order to further my life, and how can we do it as humanity to free us from fossil fuels and realign our whole being with who we really are on this planet. And I guess I'll come back tomorrow and try again. You never know what I'll be inspired to think about or say, so I hope you'll join me. I love you, whoever you are out there. I love you. I bid you peace. And may the source be with you.